Have you ever wondered why some people choose to beg when there are countless opportunities to earn an income? Picture this. A man, let's call him Bob, who's been begging for years. One day, a kind-hearted passerby offers Bob a job. But Bob, he recoils in horror. "Work?" he gasps, as if the word itself is a dirty four-letter one. Now, this isn't some high-level executive position we're talking about. No need to don a suit or master the art of corporate buzzwords. Just a simple job, waiting tables at a local diner. But Bob, our resident beggar, he just shakes his head. "I can't do that," he exclaims. "I'd actually have to do stuff." The irony is as thick as the grime under Bob's fingernails. Here he is, rejecting an opportunity to make money, all because it involves actual work. So, the beggar turned down a job because, well, it was a job. Now, let's delve into the world of the unemployed who claim they can't find jobs. Yes, we're venturing into the realm of excuses. Picture this, a man named Bob, a lover of all things couch and TV remote. Bob, like many others, found himself unemployed, and boy, did he have a knack for spinning a tale of woe. Bob would sit on his throne, also known as his worn-out couch, with a TV remote in hand. His favorite pastime? Not job hunting, oh no. Instead, he'd channel surf, bouncing between reality TV shows and news channels that spoke of the dismal job market. All the while, he'd sigh dramatically, lamenting about the lack of job opportunities. Now you might think, poor Bob, he must have tried really hard to find a job. But let me tell you, the only thing Bob tried hard at was setting a new record for the longest TV binge. His idea of a job hunt was a half-hearted Google search, followed by an exaggerated groan and a quick return to his beloved TV shows. I mean, come on, Bob. Somewhere out there, a restaurant was looking for a waiter, a lawn was yearning for a mower, and someone was in desperate need of a service they were willing to pay for. But Bob, oh dear Bob, he'd much rather critique the cooking skills of reality TV stars than serve up a dish himself. And the irony of it all? Bob was a whiz at pointing out the mistakes of others. Imagine if he had put that keen attention to detail into his job search. But alas, critiquing reality TV stars doesn't pay the bills, does it, Bob? In the grand theater of life, Bob was a master of excuses, a connoisseur of complaints, and a virtuoso of victimhood. But in the end, he was just an unemployed guy watching TV, bemoaning the lack of jobs while his potential opportunities passed him by. And there he sat, jobless and complaining, while his TV remote probably wished for unemployment. You've heard the saying, where there's a will, there's a way, right? Apparently not everyone has. Let's take a moment to delve into the hilarious saga of our dear friend. Let's call him Mr. High Hopes. Now don't get me wrong, having high hopes isn't a bad thing, but let's just say he was hoping to fly without even learning how to walk first. Mr. High Hopes, a man of many dreams but little action, was offered a job as a waiter at a local diner. But oh no, he refused. Why, you ask? Well, because he believed he was destined for the stars, a Hollywood celebrity in the making, and waiting tables was beneath him. Now, don't get me wrong, we all have dreams. But while he was dreaming of red carpets and paparazzi, his rent was due, and his fridge was as empty as his efforts to actually make it big. Now here's the kicker. One day he had the audacity to say, "There's no work available." Oh, the irony. The same man who turned down a decent job because his ego was too large to fit in an apron, now complained about a lack of work. It's like refusing to drink water because you're too thirsty for champagne, and then complaining about your parched throat. But wait, it gets better. He believed that his big break was just around the corner. He was convinced that any day now, a big shot director would discover him, probably while he was performing his one-man show of Romeo and Juliet to his reflection in the mirror. In the meantime, he thought it was perfectly fine to sit back, relax, and wait for his ship to come in. The only problem? His ship was still at the dock because he hadn't put in the work to set it sailing. So he decided to wait for his big break while his bills broke his bank account. Some say that any income is better than no income, but surprise, surprise, not everyone agrees. Let's take a jaunt down memory lane, shall we? Picture this, a man named Fred. Now, Fred wasn't any ordinary bloke. No, he had a peculiar kind of laziness that could make a sloth look like a workaholic. Fred had a golden opportunity to work as a waiter in a bustling restaurant. The job wasn't glamorous, but hey, it paid. But Fred, being Fred, decided it was beneath him. Why should I hustle and bustle, carrying plates and pouring drinks when I can just sit on a corner and stretch out my palm, he reasoned. Now before you say, oh poor Fred, he must have had it rough, let me stop you right there. Fred was as fit as a fiddle, had a charming smile that could charm the socks off anyone, and wit as sharp as a tack. But Fred, oh our dear Fred, just didn't want to put any of it to work. He decided to become a beggar. Yes, you heard that right. He chose to beg instead of earning his keep. He'd sit by the road, his hand outstretched, waiting for the kind-hearted passers-by to drop a penny or two. "Why sweat when you can just sit, am I right?" he'd say with a smirk. Some might say, well, isn't that a clever way to earn a living? But is it really? There's a certain dignity in labor, even in the most menial of jobs. At the end of the day, when you've worked hard and earned your pay, there's a satisfaction that no amount of begging can bring. Fred missed out on that, so you see Fred had a choice. He could have rolled up his sleeves and earned an honest living, but instead, he chose the easy way out, preferring to live off the charity of others. And so he chose to beg because why earn when you can plead, right? So, after all these enlightening tales, what's the takeaway here? Well, let's wrap this up with the finesse of a sushi chef, shall we? We've journeyed through the murky waters of unemployment excuses, waded through the marshes of begging, and scaled the mountain of the will and the way. And what have we found? That the path to a paycheck isn't always paved with gold, but it beats sitting on the sidewalk with a tin cup in hand. Let's revisit, for the fun of it, shall we? The beggar on the corner touting his tales of woe. He's unemployed, he says. There's no work to be found, he laments. But wait, is that a help wanted sign in the window of the diner across the street? Or a lawn that's grown wild and untamed, begging for a mower's touch? You see, there's always a way if you've got the will. And then there's the slightest bit of income. It might not be a six-figure salary, complete with a corner office and a personal assistant to fetch your soy lattes, but it's a start. It's the springboard to better things. It's the key to self-respect and dignity. It's the antidote to the begging bowl. But alas, some folks still don't get it. They'd rather play the victim than the victor, would rather rattle a cup than rattle the cage of their circumstances. They'd rather beg for scraps than earn a whole loaf. So, here's the wake-up call, served up with a side of sarcasm and a dash of dark humor. The world doesn't owe you a living, you owe yourself the effort to make a living. You owe yourself the chance to change your circumstances, to rise from the ashes of unemployment and take flight towards self-sustainability. So folks, remember, the world's a stage and you're the actor. Don't choose to be a beggar when you can be the lead. Unless of course you prefer the sound of coins jingling in a cup over the rustle of banknotes in your pocket. In that case, beg away.